Alright, so is there one quick way to learn the notes on a guitar? Well, one way is to just sit down with a pencil and paper and map out the entire neck with all its note names. It's a very thorough and method and requires a lot of concentration and discipline. It could get a little dry or theoretical for some. But another way is to just read actual music and start as simply as possible with tunes or melodies. 20 minutes a day, every day, 7 days a week, or else it won't work. In progress to reading the real beautiful stuff, like Johann Sebastian Bach, for example. Maybe choose something written for a string instrument like the violin or the lute, but nothing too complicated though. Just some note names organized into actual music, and then eventually, as they are consistently encountered and identified, more and more note names find their way into memory. In other words, you learn this best by doing actual playing of music, solving practical musical problems in real time with the metronome. You should just learn to enjoy the process of practicing and creating your own exercises, and avoid being too results oriented, but stay critical and objective on yourself. You could measure your progress in comparison to yourself, not others. This is your journey, your musical journey, so own it. Yeah, one way of finding formulas is by note name, and a second one very essential method of finding formulas is by so-called function. To use this requires two sets of knowledge. One being the intervallic distances between all 12 functions within a given octave. Example, from function 1 up to 2, that's a whole step. From 2 up to 4, that's a minor third. From 5 down to 1, that's a perfect fourth. From flat 5 up to flat 6, that's a whole step. From flat 5 in any direction to 1 is a tritone. It's symmetric. From flat 6 to 7 is a minor third, and so forth. Remember, an interval is the distance between two notes. A function is the specific chromatic location of a note within the octave. So how do you learn these intervals? Of course, on the instrument, on the guitar, choose a key, then figure out all the intervals between each function of the major scale. Then you add the flat functions. It's a little tedious and may feel very time consuming, at least in the beginning, but it shouldn't take too long if you work on it. Write it all down and memorize it. Writing a daily guitar journal is something I highly recommend. And the other requirement is knowing how to play those intervals, namely major and minor seconds, major and minor thirds, perfect and augmented fourths, fifths, major and minor sixths, major and minor sevenths, all over the instrument, every string set, adjacent or skipped or same string. Do it every day, little by little, and don't rush it. As they say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. The intervals can be learned as patterns, since there aren't that many to memorize. And now, some of you might say, hang on just a second. I thought you said patterns weren't used. Well, this is the exception. The idea is this. If 135 is the desired formula, and function 3 is being played, then if you know that the interval from 3 to 5 is a minor third, and down from 3 to 1 is a major third, then either of those two interval patterns can be plugged in appropriately to find the right notes. So you're on the path. Another example, in looking for 1, 3, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7, the function flat 5 has been located. If the intervals within the chromatic scale are known, it's clear that a move up or down a whole step will be within the formula. But one must know how to play a whole step in order to do that. Using the shortcut of an interval pattern at that point is practical, sacrifices nothing. In fact, it will only make you better. Searching for one simple formula can make searching for other more complicated formulas a whole lot easier. And then after the intervals and their patterns are been learned, the following exercise can be used to practice playing functions. Pick up a guitar and play any note, a low and a high E string. Call that function 1. Go down to function 5 on the next string, so that's a perfect fourth. Okay, if that's 5, go up to 6 on the same string. That's a whole step. Okay, so if that's 6, go down to flat 6 on the next string, a half step. Okay, so if you're changing up a little, calling that one for 1, go up to 4 on the next string. That's a perfect fourth. And okay, if that's 1, go up to sharp 9 on the same string. That's minor third. Sharp 9 is also known as flat 3. They sound the same. You could try and move around like this to and from all strings, randomly changing the functions and using intervals to find them. With this kind of movement, note names are actually irrelevant because the search is purely by function, and a very useful search method it is. At first, hearing about all this, it could feel a little overwhelming. So here's a short recap for what we need to know in order to use formulas. Spell any formula in any key. Learn the names of the notes on the instrument. Learn the intervals between all functions within the chromatic scale. And learn to play all intervals within 1 octave on the instrument. Be same string, adjacent strings, and skip strings where applicable. So, do you need to master all this before you could start using formulas? No, but working to improve these 4 skills makes it a whole lot easier to use formulas. It's a relatively small bit of required memorization, considering the immensity of the potential return, potential creative return. Yeah,